Have you ever wondered how does one negotiate MOQs with a factory? When starting off, MOQs or minimum order quantities can seem to be the most daunting thing in the world. They seem to be the block that is stopping you from achieving your dream because you have the perfect design, you have the perfect factory, and you have the perfect outline. But if only they could negotiate a lower MOQ. They could give you an MOQ that was more flexible. They're asking you for too much. You need to purchase too much stock in one go, and you're not sure. Can you afford it? Can you sell it? Is it going to put you in a difficult position? So you have all of these beautiful things aligned, but you have this one last hurdle. Well, on today's episode, I'm going to be describing to you how do we negotiate MOQ? How do we provide our factories with a great alternative to what they're looking for? So we're trying to achieve a practice or a solution that is the best suited for both parties. I've been a negotiator for the last 7 years. I've worked with hundreds of factories from all over the world. I've negotiated on behalf of my customers, on behalf of my own brand, for lower minimum orders, for lower prices, and I know a thing or two about what it takes to have a flexible MOQ with a manufacturer that I want to work with, that keeps them happy, and that ultimately keeps my brand happy. Welcome to Fittdesign TV. Are you interested in sports fashion, design, and manufacturing? Are you establishing your own brand? You're looking good. Anthony, how are we doing? Do you want to? Thank you. Well, you've come to the right place. Lights, camera, action. The first step is just to negotiate. Most people think that MOQs are set in stone, and while that may be true for a certain subset of people, you'll never know if you don't ask. The first thing that you should do is ask them, is this minimum order flexible? Is it negotiable? If you're an adept negotiator and if the factory is finding themselves in a position where they really need the business, you may be able to negotiate down the MOQ with no added value. You may be able to get them down around 10 to 15% depending on your specific use case scenario and the overall order size that you have. Number two is consider paying a higher price per item in exchange for a lower minimum order. This is not ideal because you're cutting into your profit margins, but if you absolutely do need it, and if you understand that your initial 1 or 2 collections are going to be at a lower profit margin than as you scale, then perhaps you can ask them, how about you give me a lower minimum order for a higher price per unit? They may be more willing to do this because at the end of the day, it's going to result in a higher profit for them per unit of effort that they're putting into the project. Number three, in order to lower your minimum order, you could consider to use standardized components in your designs and in your collections. So when it comes to fashion, your standardized components can be things such as your fabrics, your hardware, your zippers, your accessories, your aglets. You can try to consider using things that are stock or off the shelf, or even fabrics that are available in the market. That way you don't have to go and customize your dye. You don't have to go and customize the fabric. You don't have to go and deal with long lead times and large MOQs for very specialized and hyper customized specific trims. You can ask your factory, what do you have available that I can have as a general? So what stock trims do you have? What stock fabrics do you have that best match my requirements that allow you to provide me with a lower minimum order? Yes, you may be sacrificing some level of customization and specific control over your finished product, but what you gain in return is an initial order with the factory that puts you in better footing with them, and you actually get to deliver on your vision. My recommendation is if you're working with a high quality manufacturer, they're going to be able to offer you high quality stock trims. So you're not sacrificing so much, especially if you're working with the right manufacturer. Next up is consider using the same components across different product lines. Let's just say you have a collection of 12 different products. You have sports bras, leggings, hoodies, joggers. Find out what are the products that you can actually reuse the same fabrics for and maximize the amount of products that use the same accessories, the same fabrics. By reusing the same components, you're able to lower the factory's own minimum order quantities that they're having to succumb to because of your specific order. Sure, again, this is going to require more strategic thinking from the jump. Before you actually go and engage your factory, you're going to need to look at your collection and say, where do I need to sacrifice some specificity in order to be able to reuse the same fabrics? For example, you may have wanted to use a specific lighter weight fabric for a sports bra, but you're actually using that same fabric but in a heavier weight for your legging. You may need to sacrifice having the same weight of fabric for both of the sports bra and the legging. Perhaps you wanted to launch specific colorways on a bra and then specific colorways on a legging. Well, you may need to actually consolidate both of those colorways into the same color scheme. That way you're reusing the same fabrics across a variety of different collections. Next up, what I recommend is get quotes from both large and from smaller suppliers. You'll find that large suppliers will be able to offer you a more cost-effective price because they are able to benefit from economies of scale across their own sourcing networks, across their labor costs, and their way that they actually organize and run their business. But what they offer you in terms of price flexibility, they may not be able to offer you in terms of minimum order flexibility. On the flip side, a smaller manufacturer, someone that is just getting into the market or they're not as well established, they may be much more willing to actively give you a lower minimum order because they're going to want to build that long-term relationship with you because they're also at a specific part in their business career or their business development cycle where they're looking to onboard new customers and grow their own network. Next up, you can actually, and this may seem counterintuitive, you may actually consider working with a trader or an agency that has strong links and strong ties to existing manufacturers. And there's one primary reason for that. That agency has the benefit of having worked with that factory multiple times, having spent thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars with that factory. They built up the goodwill on your behalf and they've cut out that initial cost of doing business where you're just getting to know the factory, you're building up that trust, and they're also able to group your order with other orders and allow you to benefit from economies of scale and access to a better manufacturing network more than what you're capable of achieving by yourself as a startup brand. Next up, you can actually try to consider asking your factory to group your order with that of another brand if that's something that they accept. That way you can use the same production line, the same fabrics, the same resources as that specific brand. That way it's almost like a 2-in-1 or 2-for-1 deal. Sure, this may not be ideal and you may lose a specific level of specificity, but you are gaining access to a higher quality manufacturing at a lower minimum order quantity. Last but not least, you can actually consider to offer your manufacturer to cover the standard setup fees for the way that they do the project, the fabrics that they're going to source, the accessories they're going to source. You can buy all of that stuff upfront, pay for it in bulk, but don't have it worked on, don't have the labor actually added to it until you're ready to go. Sure, you may be spending a little bit more money up front, but you're helping the factory cover their own minimum order quantities, and you're also showing them that you're willing and ready to invest in them long term, which is going to make them much more willing and ready to actively give you that flexibility with lower minimum orders. So if you're going into a collection, you could say, I want to purchase the fabric for these 3 colorways, but in the interim, I'm only ready to proceed with these 2 colorways in terms of the cut and sew operations. Go ahead and purchase the fabrics for all 3. Maybe that amount may amount to around 20 to 25% of the total order value. And then you add another 25% for the cut and sew of the black and the red colorway, and you leave the blue colorway till later on in the year when you're ready and you have the funds ready to go. From there, they're going to be willing to really drastically and effectively cut down your minimum order because they've seen the intent that you have and the actual long-term commitment that you're willing to spend with them. If you're interested in having me coach you one-on-one on how to negotiate for more flexible minimum orders, to actually get better prices from your suppliers, to build up a stronger relationship so that they take you more seriously, so that they give you a better service like the top brands out there, you can benefit from my experience. I've been doing this for the last 7 years. You can book a one-on-one consultation call on the link below, and I'd love to hear what your brand is looking for, what challenges you're facing in terms of production, and how we can use the tools that you have to your advantage to negotiate for better prices, better minimums with your factory. That way you're getting what you want, the factory's getting what they want, and you're building a long-term relationship. Also, if you're looking to work with a strong agency that has deep, really rooted ties with existing factories that are at the top of their game, at Fittdesign, that's what we do. We help brands from all over the world to design, develop, and manufacture sportswear, activewear, casual wear, and we can help your brand as well. Check www.fittdesign.com and inquire about working with us today. Guys, from the very bottom of my heart, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Fit Design TV. Until next week's episode, stay awesome.